Hey everyone, welcome back to Fed Up with me, the eternal miserable one. Fed Up guys, joining me today is Joy from the band The Holy Nothing. How is it going on your side, man?
It's good. Yeah, it's a it's a gloomy, rainy, snowy day here in Indiana. So uh, it'll be like this for the next 5 months, and then it'll be dog shit hot, and then you know that's the
S-
Midwest.
Same here, man. Northeast in the northeast of England, there's just snow, ice everywhere. It's so cold, and I'm used to it being from the north. But now, man, it's like the winters are just getting colder and colder, and
Yeah,
then it's just like you have months of winter, go straight into summer. Now that's a sweat box. It's getting stupidly hot even here,
right.
and that's it. I mean, that would be a whole other show in itself, man. Um, but for those who haven't heard the band before or know about yourself, could you just tell us a little bit about you know, what you do within the band?
Yeah, I sing and play guitar. We're just like a kind of a stoner rock. Uh, that has a lot of like heavy metal influence. Um, Band from Indiana.
Mm. The thing I noticed, man, when I was listening through to the EP and we were chatting a little bit about this before we went live, and man, I love the way. I mean, we'll get into the tracks obviously, but I love the way how you blend hardcore, sludge, even bits of doom, bit of stoner, desert rock, even a little bit of a grunge vibe as well. It's all blended nicely together.
Thank you.
Uh, yeah, and that just caught my ears because I could hear the hardcore, but then it was like, you know, to me, honestly, man, it sounded like, and this isn't a bad thing. I really do genuinely mean this as a compliment. It's almost like you took a hardcore singer yourself
Hmm.
and put them in a kind of sludgy stoner desert rock band, and all amalgamated together, and it made it a very interesting listen. The change in tempos, the rawness that comes with your vocals as well, and then some of the stoner riffage. So are these all elements that just naturally came to you all when playing the music?
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. Like Dan and Austin, the other two guys in the band are they're a little bit older than me, 6 or 7 years older than me, and we definitely came from very different musical backgrounds. Um, but like our drummer Austin, he played in a lot of like I think kind of that like New York hardcore inspired stuff.
Mm.
Dan played in a bunch of weirdo punk bands and
Weirdo punk bands.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Love it.
Yeah, and I grew up on a lot more. I didn't really have like a local scene. I'm from a really, really small town, like a literal like village here in Indiana. So I didn't really have like a music scene growing up other than like what I was exposed to on like MTV and shit. So like bands like take a band like My Chemical Romance was like a gateway to like Every Time I Die for me.
Yeah,
And then Every Time I Die was like the ultimate gateway into all
yeah,
that shit that I like. So yeah, like to take sort of like what Austin brings to the table and what Dan brings to the table. Dan's who got me into like Queens of the Stone Age, so that's where like that kind of stoner rock, desert rock stuff
yeah.
comes from. Um, and then I just really love guitar pedals and guitar playing. So I think you kind of hear all of that.
Yeah, you do, and it's yeah, man. Honestly, it's nice. I mean, obviously I've heard some hardcore sludge bands before, but only a handful, to be honest.
Hmm.
So I really liked hearing that element, and I'm guessing the scene there, from the way you've described it, a bit like here actually, and certainly some Australian guests in the past who are from Perth have mentioned the same. How it's such a small scene that there's not enough to say, right, we're going to do a thrash metal scene. Everyone's
Mm.
kind of just lumped together.
Well, I mean, Fort Wayne, where I live now, and that's where the band is from, is it's like the second largest city in Indiana. So here we have a pretty cool like DIY hardcore scene that like
Mm,
right now, like death metal is huge here right now. There's this amazing band here in town full of young kids called Feticide that's just like brutal slamming.
Oh, I
uh,
like him.
Yeah, yeah, it's good stuff. They just put out like a 3-song promo that I
Oh,
heard it. I heard it the other day and it was so fucking heavy. But
I'll
am
have
I
to
allowed
check
to
it
swear
out.
on here? I'm sorry.
Y-
Is that okay?
Yeah, I think well, we can get away with it at the moment. I think it's more me that I have to behave. I think. Anyway, so it's
Okay.
all right. We'll just go with it.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry.
It's all
But yeah,
right.
like, no, you're good. And there's a lot of crossover into like Ohio. I know like the
Yeah,
Feticide guys are all friends with like the Sanguisuga Bog guys. That band is
yeah.
huge right now. So there's a lot of that death metal stuff, but then like, bands like Gel and bands like Spine
Oh,
and
Jello, fantastic. Yeah.
yeah, they're incredible. There's a dude here that puts on, little DIY shows where you get 50 to 100 kids packed in a basement,
Yeah,
to see Gel or to see Spy
yeah,
or tons of great bands. So Fort Wayne has a pretty
yeah,
cool and a really long history of DIY stuff, and
yeah.
um, so yeah, I do want to give some love to all that, but
Definitely, man. That's pretty dope because when I always get to the end of the show, I always ask people to shout out or promote anything they want, outside
mhm.
of their own band, and you've done that already. So that's awesome, man. And I like the spirit you get with DIY as well. When people definitely are there to help each other, they're there for the music. Just hearing you talk is making me miss doing my hardcore radio show, man. Already.
Yeah.
Gel, I think, just did a tour here, and they're coming back to play the Download Festival next year. But they're blowing up. They're blowing up. There was, I don't know if they're still active, but there was a grindcore band, possibly Septicemia. I may have got the name wrong. But the chick who fronted them, man, her pipes were insane.
Mm.
And I've just realised, no, it's not Septicemia, is another band, but I know it begins with an S. But yeah,
Are you thinking of a Squala Grind?
no, but they're
Oh, okay.
fantastic as well. Yes, Gloria, yeah, I love that band.
Mm.
Hacker's awesome. Hey, well, turn your attention to your own music, or I will
Yeah.
talk about hardcore all show. There'll be people tuning in like, what is this
Yeah,
do?
yeah, yeah.
So yeah, yeah, just got a little bit sidetracked there. So the thing I like to start with, though, man, whenever I talk to people, is looking at the artwork, and you've got kind of a very retro grunge stoner cover. The same with the font, the way like the imagery there. It's like almost as if it's a ghostly figure, I guess. So I'm just
Mm.
curious who did that for you.
So that was actually a photo that our friend Jen Stanley shot.
Right.
She uh sh she might be one of like three, maybe only even two people that have ever like done photos for us. She's one of my closest friends. She's very good at like I'm not a good photographer, but I have a lot of like vision and direction and
Yeah.
stuff. I'm not good at like executing those things, but she's really good at like listening to me ramble and rant about these ideas and then really like not only like bringing them to life, but making them cooler than I could have ever imagined. So yeah, that was just a photo. We didn't really know. Excuse me. We didn't
All
really
right.
know um, what was gonna come of like the volume 1 thing. Um, I kind of like told the guys when we started demoing it, I was like, I want it to be called that. It's volume 1 and then the title of the record. And then that evolved into some other stuff and, some things that we'll be announcing later. But we wanted to come up with this idea for like, um, artwork that was very like it had a structure to it that would be
Yeah.
like reoccurring throughout our releases and stuff. And yeah, we have a lot of love for like 70s guitar rock. We have a lot of love
Yeah.
for a lot of like pop culture stuff from those times.
Yeah.
a lot like that, like pulpy sci-fi
Yeah,
books and movies and stuff like that. And yeah, we just kind of wanted to take like our love for I mean like that like whole aesthetic of the 70s and give it a little bit of a modern twist, but
yeah,
pay tribute to a lot of that stuff that we love. So
yeah, yeah. Um, when I was reading about the band, I noticed the pop culture areas of interest. That's definitely something I'm going to ask you about as well.
mm,
uh, and that's cool stuff as well. The artwork matching the feel. So the opener, "Bathe Me." Um, this is quite a nice intention musically. Definitely draws a listener in. I feel gives them kind of that vibe for what they're going to expect with the EP.
mm.
And it says it's lyrically it's an ode to the consuming lust for one's lover where devotion pushes one to the edge. So when you were getting the inspiration for this, I'm going to be delicate here, was this just a commentary on things that you've experienced, maybe see around you, or something personal perhaps?
Yeah, that
Mm,
song is about a very personal, intimate,
mm.
specific experience.
Yeah, we could
Yeah,
yeah, I was being
yeah.
subtle. I was like
Yeah, yeah, that's probably my favorite song on the record. And it was the first time I got to, I've been playing in bands for 15 years now, and it was kind of the first song where I wrote it and didn't care.
yeah,
It felt really good to be able to like celebrate those parts of life and um, just kind of have a song that was at times a little tongue in cheek, but
yeah.
also at times being very blatant. And
Mm,
um, yeah, I think that those kinds of more adult elements of our band are something that
yeah.
we have a lot of fun
But
incorporating. So
But that's the beauty of it, because it brings that rawness,
yeah, exactly.
what people can relate to,
Yeah,
the
I
human
mean,
experience.
right, yeah. And another little note about that song too, like it was really important to me that this song opened the record because yeah, lyrically it was new territory for me to write about something kind of lustful and romantic, but to also that opening riff, the guitar riff that comes in with the kick pattern.
Yeah,
I had pitched that to my old band that I was in for like 10 years or whatever, and it never caught on and no one ever wanted to like go in on it. And then when I got with these guys, I showed it to them and they were like, yes,
yeah,
that is sick. So everything about that song was just like a celebration of like out with the old, in with the new, in with what is like true to me, true to us. This is what our band sounds like.
yeah. Starting a new chapter, and sometimes it's good to get it all out there to release it. I am trying to behave myself and not reference hardcore again. How I love that aspect of hardcore. People like, this dude just won't stop talking about hardcore, but I think with yeah,
Oh,
I think
sorry,
with
sorry, I was waving bye to a buddy. Sorry about
oh, it's all right. No,
that.
no, no problem, no problem, man. Um, uh, I had a cat make an appearance in the show the other day, so you're good,
Oh,
man.
nice. Yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, it's good. Like we said, it's good to release it, and it's good to have sometimes some of that raw, honest lyricism. So when you were all writing the lyrics for your music, is it you who mainly does it, or do you all work together, take parts out, when necessary?
Yeah, Dan and I, typically it's kind of like, um, whoever writes most of the music will typically like, I think Dan and I are very similar in this way of working where like, um, we both consider ourselves like songwriters more than like guitar players or more than bass players or whatever.
Mm,
Um, I feel like that sounds a little arrogant. I don't mean for it to
No,
sound
no, no,
arrogant,
man,
but
doesn't.
we just, I grew up. I'm a drummer, by trade, but
Wow.
yeah, I picked up the guitar and when I was young, but I really was into the idea of like thinking about songs rather than thinking about just the guitar, just the drums or whatever. So when we approach writing lyrics, it's very like everything kind of is turning all at once, like we'll get like a vocal melody or we'll write like a one-liner down or something and build off of that. And one of my favorite parts about this record is that like no two songs were written the same.
Mm,
But to answer your question though, we do one of us will write a bunch of words and then we'll send them to each other and it's like, do these words bring out like emotional response?
yeah,
Like, do you read these
yeah,
and does it make you feel any kind of way?
yeah.
And yeah, then we bounce back and forth and then we demo and then we chop and screw it from there and then lay it down for the final. So
Yeah. And that's good that you're ensuring it has that emotional response, because then when you put that music out there, for the public, and
hmm.
then they can feel that response as well. Because if it come out as soulless, well, wouldn't be very good.
Right, right.
So yeah, it'd be like, "Ugh, yeah, listen to our music. We don't feel anything about it, but you might."
Yeah,
It'd be like,
yeah,
ugh. And
yeah.
I'm already interested, Joy, as well. And you mentioned something very interesting in your answer. How you've wrote each song very differently. So
Mhm.
the nerd in me automatically, as soon as I heard that, I thought, yeah, I'm going to ask him about that. So, um, just looking at the music before we move on to the next song. So when you've wrote the lyrics, and I know this come from a personal space, did you then, play music with that feeling, with the memory of that experience, so that you could feel it within the music, or did you already have the music wrote and then you added the lyrics on later?
So I guess the first thing I wrote would have, like I said, I had that guitar riff
Yeah.
forever, for a bunch of
Oh
years,
yeah. No,
and
I'm sorry. Yeah.
yeah. No, you're good. It was funny when some old bandmates of mine heard that for the first time. They were like, "Oh, finally! Like you tricked someone into thinking that was a good riff." Um, but yeah, so like I had that riff, and it's a very bouncy kind of spanky riff, and it just like Dan and I one night after practice were just hanging out, and we were playing that part, and then it just I don't know that song kind of unfolded really naturally. I think it might have been the only song on the EP that Dan and I like jammed,
Right.
which was really cool because that's something that I've always been like almost too embarrassed to like try and jam with people because I get nervous on the spot. And
Yeah.
but yeah, we did. We spent like an evening just kind of like fleshing out these parts, and yeah, I was just literally like writing lyrics as we went. Like I had a little
Sure.
notepad. I was sitting on the drums and Dan was playing guitar, and we would jam a little bit, and then we would talk, and then I'd write stuff down, and we jam a little bit, and I would like read him the things I was writing, and yeah, it was super collaborative and a ton of fun. I hope we can do that again in the future
Yeah.
because it was cool to be like on the same wavelength with somebody where like you're communicating in more than just talking to each other.
Yeah. Like you're in sync. Uh,
Yeah,
Um, and that must be like really rewarding as well, because it's
yeah,
coming naturally. It's the feeling from you've got that music down, then the next, next line or whatever comes in. Right,
right,
I'm going to write this down next
yeah,
part. Um,
yeah,
it's almost when it reminds me of that process when I've read about writers when they've been listening to music and they've wrote like one scene for the
mm,
novel,
yeah,
and it's just been this one scene, and then they've listened to something, could be a different song or something, and that's got them in the mood to write the next scene.
hmm,
So no, that's really, really interesting, man. The next track on the EP, the second one, um Bliss Trench. This is an interesting story behind it as well, which is just clear my throat before I have a coughing attack. It says it's a song about confronting existential dread and finding solace in what truly matters. Um, so there's a lot to unpack there, interesting inspiration behind it for sure. So you just tell us a little bit about the creative process with how you wrote the song and then how you composed the music to go with Bliss Trench.
Yeah. So Dan actually, I think Dan wrote that entire song. Um, yeah, no, he definitely did because I remember him sending Austin and I the demo. He demoed the whole thing out by himself. He had some of the lyrics in it already. Um, and that was, that song came pretty early. It was the first song that we really fleshed out and
Right.
really like got playing together. And I remember him sending that demo and just being like, "Holy moly, dude!" Like, yeah. And then, I added some of my what I call spice racking, with the pedals and guitar parts and stuff. And then, um, we changed some of the lyrics around because I felt like what Dan was trying to convey was it just didn't have the teeth I felt like it needed. And then that's where we got to that chorus, and we were we were working on the lyrics for the chorus, and he was like, "You should just double this. Like you yell over it, I'll sing over it. It'll be this cool kind of like duality thing." Um, and yeah, once we got all that, there's that super sludgy breakdown at the end of it that
Mm,
he wrote, and I was I was helping a friend move because we were stumped on that part. We didn't have lyrics for it, and I was helping a friend move one day, and I was thinking about there's this Every Time I Die song called "Pigs is Pigs,"
yeah.
and there's this lyric in it that's like, "Oh, I'm no good at court-ordered goodbyes." And I just like I was thinking about that, and I was thinking about the movie No Country for Old Men, and I was
Classic.
just like, there was just like that part just had this like anxious like adrenaline feeling to it, where there's this kind of like nerve-wracking build to it. And when I came up with that lyric, like "Want me so bad that the cops get involved," just this like injecting this like anxiety to the whole thing, where you just were always kind of looking over your shoulder.
Mm.
And yeah, that song, I love that song so much, but it it's kind of it's a creepy song.
Yeah, it it has that bit of that darkness coming in there, and I
Yeah.
feel it transitions into um look the next well it transitions into the third track very nicely, which is actually
Mm.
one of my favorites off the entire EP. I've got
Thank you.
two. There's two in particular that I really really love. You probably won't be surprised when I mention either one either, but unending blah, sorry man, it's my throat.
Oh,
uh
you're good.
Unending death. This is it's really frustrating at times. Just a disclaimer as well for folks tuning in, thinking, "Why does this guy have to still recovering from the flu?" And it's annoying,
Yeah.
folks. So, unending death, man. You were talking about like the dark edge of the previous song. Well, this I feel it just blends nicely because on this one, man, oh man, you have such a blend of hardcore with stoner and sludge, and I feel it's like it's almost like a hardcore sludge song with stoner riffs. And when I heard that, I was like, man, that is just something. It's got that. It's still got that rawness, the riffing. It's definitely got the mosh. Definitely love to get down in the pit to it for sure. Um, I'm just curious. Did you write the lyrics in a similar fashion to? I believe it was Bliss Trench, I think you were mentioning, when you're playing the music,
Um,
wrote bits.
yeah, so if I remember right, I think the lyrics for Unending Death were actually the thing that came first.
Wow.
Yeah. And I do that sometimes. Like I love to write lyrics, and like I said, I'm
Yeah.
a drummer, so like
Yeah.
I'll write the rhythm and like the cadence, and then I'll write drums, and then I'll build the skeleton of a song just with drums and vocals, and then I'll write guitar parts to that. A little unconventional, but I think that vocals and drums to me are the most dynamic parts of bands.
Yeah.
So like guitar can just be like icing at that point, and you can get crazy with it. But yeah, Unending Death was that was a really that's a really tough song to play. Just lyrically, it's about some pretty heavy, dark shit. I I had been let me think here. Yeah, I watched that movie Devil all the time. You ever seen that?
I haven't. No, I've heard about it. My watch list is forever expanding.
Yeah, yeah. Devil all the time is it's a really it's kind of like a Midwest Gothic. It takes place in like Southern Ohio when you get down into the hills and the mountains and stuff. And um, I won't spoil too much about it for you, but there's a character in it that tries to like send a message to some people after they had been a nuisance to someone that he loves. And I was talking with a close family member of mine, and who's much older than me, and we were talking about their childhood, and we were talking about some of the abuse that they had endured, and stuff way before I was born, stuff that had happened to them. And there was just this like there was this real like kind of pain in my heart that like I wish that there was this way for me to just like make that stuff right and make that
Yeah.
stuff go away,
Yeah.
and that's what it was, that's what that song's about. Is just like, you inherit these anger issues, or these horrible parts about the people that you love and you look up to. You sometimes inherit these things from them that are product of abuse, or
Like the baggage,
product.
isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. And to hear someone that you love so much, talk about these horrible things that happened, and the things that they've had to overcome, and the things they've had to endure. And um you just wish that you could have been there to stop it, even though that it's completely impossible because I wasn't alive at the time. But
Yeah. But that's the real it's not to take anything away from that experience or struggle, but that's the pain of it when you are a family member, because like you just said, Joy, you because you love and care about them, you want to make it right, to have
Mhm.
helped them, but obviously unable to do that. I knew this one was a dark one because it's a revenge narrative inspired by Donald Ray Pollock's work.
Yeah, yeah.
He was a well-known author for those who don't know. Is the movie by any chance? Because I have heard about it and people have
Mhm.
told me, and again, it's on my watch list. Is it a bit like Mandy, the movie with Nicolas Cage? Which is a well-known revenge movie.
Um, there's similar elements. Mandy is
Mm,
definitely way more like over the top. I mean, I loved Mandy. That movie's incredible,
yeah,
but uh, yeah, there's no like supernatural aspect to Devil All the Time. It's very
yeah,
it's like, and that's what I love about that author, Donald Pollock, is that he writes about stuff that are so human
yeah,
and so fucking grim and bleak and dark, and
yeah,
just he wrote a book called Knock 'em Stiff that is it's basically just like this. a bunch of stories from this town called Knockemstiff that all these different characters in this town that go through these really bizarre but like I said, just incredibly human experiences um, that make people feel really uncomfortable. And um, there's been times in my life growing up in weird, creepy small towns where I've been made to feel really unsafe and uncomfortable. And I really related to that movie and that book, and um, yeah, that stuff. But to answer your question, there is a similar like revenge thing
Mm,
going on, but
mm.
it's not nearly as wacky as Mandy
Yeah.
was.
Yeah. That's for sure. I mean, it was Nicolas Cage, isn't it? It's to be expected with some of his
Yeah,
movies.
dude, the scene in that movie where, well, no spoilers, but like
Yeah,
there's a part in that movie where he's just standing in that bathroom.
yeah,
It's like
yeah.
uncomfortably long and he's just screaming. Great movie though. Incredible
The-
movie.
oh yeah, there was one he did. What was there was one recently from a while back where it was in kind of this samurai post-apoc town. That one was definitely out there. Forget the name of it because he does so much, man. He's probably one of the
Yeah.
busiest actors. And
Yeah.
then there was a crazy one. I actually enjoyed it a lot. It was very entertaining. Where he was like, he drove to this kind of, I guess, from what I remember, yeah, this abandoned kind of, where they have like kids parties with people as like the like cosplaying as like
Like a mascot.
Barney and that, yeah, as mascots, things like that. It
Yeah,
was
yeah.
something like that. It was this abandoned, I'll say building for want of a better word,
Sure,
like
sure.
an abandoned place like that. And I think these things were kind of possessed by the people that had been killing all of these folks that had gone in there, kids, adults, a lot, man, quite dark,
Yeah, yeah.
grimy stuff. But because it's a Nicolas Cage movie, it puts the humor in as well and
Right, right.
really exaggerates it. And he gets, spoiler alert, folks, but this won't ruin it too much for you. He gets locked in this building with these things, and of course, all these giant kind of walking around puppets, mascots, teddy bears, I guess, whatever they are, think,
Yeah.
oh, we're going to have fun with Nick, with Nick,
That's
But Nick,
funny.
being Nick, turns the tables. I think that's it. He works there briefly as a janitor, and then ends up in the most over the top comical ways,
Yeah.
pretty much taking out the entire villains. It's a crazy movie, man. It's from probably 3 or 4 years ago. I forget the name now.
Okay.
I'll send you after the show, man. But
Yeah, please. Yeah.
crazy stuff. Funny movie as well.
Yeah.
So just before we move on to the next track, is that something that grabs you both with writing in general, with music and literary works, where it's a bit more based on kind of real world human experiences?
Um, that's a great question.
Mhm.
It's pretty, I don't know. I'm very impulsive when I write, and it's
Yeah,
very like, my notes app in my phone is just full of, last night I think it's called Bake Off over there.
yeah,
Here it's Great British Baking Show. Um, that's like my girlfriend and I, that's our jam. We love that show. And like last night the one of the hosts said something about how like he wouldn't have fed that to a dog. And
yeah,
I thought it was so funny that I wrote it down. Like I just stuff like that,
yeah.
it comes whenever and wherever, so but I like to write about stuff that I hope people will find relatable. I that's one of my biggest goals with this band is I just want it to feel very human. Um, and I think that like being vulnerable with lyrics and being more open and being more personal, um, excuse me,
Sorry,
I think
catching my
that
cold.
I think that stuff like that just expressing yourself in that way, it makes people feel it makes people feel safe to be themselves and be vulnerable or feel seen or whatever, you
Yeah.
know. Just like I mean, like I was saying with the Donald Pollock stuff, like
Yeah.
you know, a lot of that stuff I can't relate to because it's really gnarly, but like
Yeah.
there's some stuff in it where like I just turned 30 and nobody I've ever met in my life has ever said something that like made me feel like somebody had a similar experience to me, you know, for this hyper specific thing or whatever. So yeah, I definitely try to write more for like the human experience of it all.
Yeah, it makes people feel connected.
Exactly, yeah.
It's it's very honest. It's very very out there. Um, Look, I'm not going to sit and be a hypocrite and say I don't like when bands writing about horror, sci-fi, fantasy,
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
All that stuff's great. It has a place as well. But then it's nice also to get the other side when sometimes it's real human experiences or just something raw and out there and honest.
Yeah.
It still can be heavy music. It can still have the riffing. It doesn't always have to be about, death, doom, and destruction, whatever. And I say I'm not to be a hypocrite. I love my death metal as well.
Same.
Um, yeah, it's all a mood thing. At the end of it, everything has
Right.
its place. Um, the next one, Monda Green. Now, this was my other favorite track from the EP. I really enjoyed this one because it has a nice melding, I feel, of hardcore, sludge, and stoner rock. There's a lot of nice riffing on it as well. The vocals on this one are good too. I like how it complements the music. So this is one I really enjoyed. And it says, I'll be delicate on this one as well. And it says it's inspired by misinterpreted lyrics. This track deals with disillusionment stemming from a religious upbringing. So um, I guess, to be delicate, the inspiration behind that is that when maybe people aren't behaving in the way that they should from, a particular faith.
Um, yeah, I mean,
Mm.
yeah, I think mostly what that song is about, and like, I think you know, Dan wrote the lyrics for this one as
Yeah.
well. Um, it's one of my favorite songs too. Like, what I love about being in this band is like, I get to work with one of my favorite songwriters. So like, when he pitches a new song, like, it's like, hell yeah, I get to play on one of my best friend's songs that I
Yeah,
love.
exactly. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
anyway,
People in.
right, right. I think more with this one, and this is something that Dan, Austin, and I all three really, really related to, and why I think it's such a special song is that like, you know, the idea of Amanda Green is like it's like misinterpreted lyrics. It's like a
Mm.
like you know that game Telephone where like
Yeah.
you whisper something to someone and it gets construed the
Yeah.
further it goes down the line. You
Yeah.
know, it's stuff like that. But then when people who are a part of certain groups or uh, you know certain
Twist it.
yeah, when they weaponize it and
Yeah.
they use it to inject fear in people's lives
Agreed.
to make them, which I mean I know that's something that's been written about time and time again, but it was something that was very, you know, it shaped a lot of what this band is, you know, it was some of the biggest talking points when we first started talking about doing a band was sharing this kind of you know, trauma bonding a little bit over our time spent uh, in certain buildings with certain people that were preaching certain things. Um, and yeah, just like I said, people twisting words to weaponize them and basically just getting people to give them a
Yeah.
bunch of money.
Yeah. It's interesting you mentioned that. I guess like they're a stoner band, but also they also get tagged as, I guess, like death blues, whatever that is. 20 Watt Tombstone from Wisconsin.
Yeah. We just we played with them a few months ago here
Oh
in
man,
town.
fantastic band, really good guy
Yeah,
as well.
incredible musicians.
Oh man, yeah. Oh, there's some, again. It's like, I know I keep going about this, but they've got that rawness. I love it how all these different forms of music all can have that different kind of rawness that comes to the music as well.
Yeah,
But
of course.
when I was talking with him, he mentioned, I'll give a shout out to you, and forgive me, I've forgotten the name of the track. It was a few weeks ago, maybe a bit more than that. That's my disclaimer for forgetting. And he was telling me about a video they'd released to accompany a particular song, and it was a bit similar to what you said about this guy who was a preacher, and really, he's a snake oil merchant. He's just
Hmm.
more concerned with getting the money off people,
Yeah.
not the message. He said he got quite a lot of heat about it. There was some people, oh yeah, you attacking our faith, and it's like, no, not at all. He's referring to, like you said, these charlatans who are in everything. Um, and sadly, as you said, it's been written about since time began, and probably always will be. Whatever it
Yeah.
is, even if it's not just fifth, someone. It's sad that somebody can take something and twist it.
Yeah.
And I mean, one of the core tenets of Fed Up is, yeah, I focus on underground metal and punk hardcore, but I like it where to say to people, like, whatever your background is, everybody's welcome on
Yeah.
here, whatever
Thousand
you
percent.
believe in or not.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about the creative process and the music and get
Hmm.
into it, and hopefully put a bit of positivity out there. So that's definitely one of the aims. And yeah, now hearing more about the background to that song, there's no wonder it's one of the darker, heavier ones. One of my, I say the other favorite that I really like. And
Yeah.
then when we come to the last track on the EP, and this one, I feel this one is, it really does typify the title, and I mean this in a nice way, Doom Church. And it really does have a doom metal feel to it. And it's just the inspiration for this one as well is a reflection on finding temporary solace in the company of an incompatible partner, seeking meaning in constructive love. So another very personal one. I feel the impression I'm drawing. So does when you're writing lyrics from something that's maybe being difficult personal experiences, does that sometimes make it harder to do? Does it bring up those feelings, or is it healthy and it helps you get that release?
So that is actually that's a really awesome question. This is something that I've struggled with for a very long time. It's a very fine line to walk.
Mm,
I think that it can be really healthy to like get certain feelings out and get those, you know, flush those things out of you. But the problem is that once you put that into a song and it exists and you're gonna keep playing it every night and you're gonna
yeah,
keep it's very hard to disconnect from those things. And it's even harder when people do relate to it and they tell you how much that song means to you and they tell you about a time where they felt the same way that you felt. It's so fucking hard to get it, there's this great band, the band Touche Amore.
yeah,
you know they wrote that record Stage 4 about the singer's mother.
yeah,
And then, on the next record they have a song called I'll Be Your Host, that's about kind of like, you write this song, a lot of people love it and they connect with it, and then 6 or 7 years goes by and you're hopefully healed from that stuff and you've overcame those things and you're moved on from it, but you still get these people that come to shows or talk to you, and it'll rip that scab right back open.
yeah,
So yeah, it's tough. that was something in a previous band of mine that I that was a huge reason why I wanted that band to end, was because I couldn't separate those times, and I had to work out a lot of that trauma and stuff through different means. Um, but yeah, that was a really great question.
Well, thanks, man, and that was a really good answer. I feel, and I hope others recognize this as well. I feel, so far in our conversation, you've done a really honest, genuine, laid out, bare, conversation with me, man, for sure. Um, did you always want Doom Church to close out the EP? Was that always going to be the end song?
No,
Hmm.
that's funny. Um, no, it was originally supposed to open the EP.
Right, right,
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah, it was originally going to be the opener. We used to open with that song like when we'd play live, and I just felt like putting it at the beginning. I, this might be a little silly, but
Okay.
when I think about our band, I'm always thinking 5 years ahead.
Yeah.
I try to think about where this thing is going to be 2 years from now, and
Mm.
then where it's going to sit with the next release or the release after that, or and I thought that Doom Church just wasn't the right introduction to our band. I mean, despite having put out a couple of songs before that, I felt like this EP was going to be the one that people really tuned in for. And so far, the response has been awesome, and I'm really glad that we did put it at the end, because once we decided that it wasn't going to be the opener, that I feel like that's when that song really was completed, and I knew that it was going to be a transitional piece from volume 1 to volume 2.
Yeah.
And I knew that it was going to be this sort of bridge that was going to be a bit of a cliffhanger, but that was also going to be like, to me that song is very like overwhelming. Like
Mm.
it's such a massive riff. It's very simple, but it feels like apocalyptic to me.
Very, very.
And that was, I remember early on in the band, we were talking about what we wanted to sound like, and I told Dan and Austin, I was like, I want to feel baptized in this like wall of noise. And when we recorded that song, normally I record my guitar parts in the control room with Dan. I'm sitting next to him at the board. My amp's out in a different room. And I told Dan, I was like, when we record this song, I want to be in a room with just a wall full of amps, no earplugs in, no like noise gating my guitar. Like I want to feel, I want to feel the air move when I record this song. So that's what we did. We hooked up 3 different amps with 3 different fuzz pedals going to each
Wow.
one. One amp had a delay pedal on it, one amp had a reverb pedal on it, one amp was just turned all the
Yeah.
way up. And yeah, when I recorded that song, it was like, okay, this is the end of the EP.
Yeah.
This is the I want this to feel like the end of the fucking world.
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
um so yeah, it wasn't originally the ender, and
Yeah.
then it it became the ender. And I don't like to, and again, I can't speak too much about it, but like I don't look at it as much as the end of volume 1. I look at it as like the bridge between volume 1 and volume 2. So
I was thinking that because I was going to ask you about the name of the band itself, and then the title of the EP, Volume 1, The Profound and Nameless Fear.
mm,
And I thought I got a sense this is, like you said, bridging to Volume 2. So I'm going to ask you, I guess, a triple loaded question here. So I'll take a deep breath, hopefully not cough. So, and now as I'm about to ask it, it's evaporated. Please come back quickly because there'll be an uncomfortable like sounds like get like elevator music on, I think. Yeah, that was it. So first part of this loaded question is I feel you've already touched on this actually during the interview, but what inspired the name of the band?
Um, you know, I remember having conversations. Austin named the band,
Hmm.
which is like I think that speaks volumes to his like importance in the band because like he's not usually around for the writing process. Um, the way that we work is like Dan and I write songs, and then Austin is like a fresh set of ears or a fresh set of eyes, and
Yeah.
he has a lot of great ideas, and he does write his own drum parts um, after we like put like demo drums on them and stuff. But you know, yeah, he's not around for the entire creative process, but he does things like name the band. You know what I mean? Which is arguably the most important
Yeah.
part of it, you know?
Yeah.
And and I think that's what's so special about him as a member and as a drummer and just like as a human.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, I know that uh, it was just kind of a thing that he had in his back pocket. He's a very thoughtful person. He's very he reads a lot of like philosophy. He's constant like his brain is never shut off, and he's very into like escapism. He's very into like visiting different worlds. Right
Right.
now, right now he's hooked on like the Dune franchise. He's on like the 15th book of.
Yeah. There's loads of them, isn't there?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And he loves escapism, and he loves trying to like, you know, trying to just see all parts of his mind, and
Yeah.
he's always trying to expand things. And yeah,
Yeah.
that the Holy Nothing was just he texted it to the group chat one night, and we were all just like, "Yep,
Yeah. Just
that's
feel
it.
it was right. Yeah.
Yep, that's exactly it, dude." It was
Yeah.
like this feels exactly right, and we never looked back. It just
I'm get
stuck.
I'm getting that sense with this lineup, with this band, that you've got that good connection. You've got that stability together. You're all comfortable. You can bounce back and forth creatively,
Oh yeah,
musically
yeah,
as
yeah.
well, and that's a really good thing to have in any
Hmm.
band.
Yeah,
Um,
it's like a
sec-
marriage.
yeah, 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 one that works.
Yeah, right,
Isn't
right.
it?
It's a good
Yeah,
one. Yeah.
yeah, it's a good one. Yay, we'll put out a good example, folks.
Right.
So, part two of this loaded question, the name of the EP, Volume One, "A Profound and Nameless Fear." I just wondered, was the anything that inspired that title? Did you? Well, I'm just realized I'm asking another question here. Did you want it to encompass the whole feel of the EP, the music and the themes?
Um, so if I remember right, this was
Mm,
another one of those things where like I just saw it or read it or something and I wrote it down. Like it was
mm.
something that just it stuck with me. If I'm not mistaken, I think it comes from a Lovecraft story.
Whoa, right,
Yeah, I
cosmic
should.
horror. Yeah.
Oh, dude, yeah, yeah, yeah. That's my jam.
Well,
Like,
don't worry. I am going to ask you about that. I've been
yeah,
behaving.
yeah,
We're
yeah.
getting the
I can't
business
wait.
part of the way first.
I can't wait.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wish I could remember which story it was because you know how those like Lovecraft collections are where you get
Yeah.
like you buy one book but there's 80 short stories in it,
Yeah.
like cosmic horror collections and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I read it and I wrote it down and it was this thing that like it would wake me up at night. Like it was this thing that just like I would hear it in the back of my mind all the time and then I would I just I there was something about that phrase that just encompassed everything about the birth of this band where it was like we are kind of letting go of everything that we identified ourselves with for so long. Austin played drums in this like New York hardcore band for like a decade, and Dan played in a million different punk bands, and
Yeah.
I was in a band that I worked on for like 12 years, and it's just like we ditched all of these parts that were like our entire identity for so
Yeah.
long, and then just started this new thing that was unlike anything we'd ever done, and it was fucking scary. You know what
Yeah.
I
Yeah. But
mean?
it's not
Like
easy.
Yeah, it was really, really scary to like no longer be Joey from that band. Now I'm
Yeah,
Joey from this band.
yeah, the
And
comfort zone, isn't it? Mm.
yeah, right. And it was very scary. And I think that a profound and nameless fear was like, I don't know necessarily how it's gonna work out, but I know that I can't like deny this thing anymore. Like this is what I'm supposed to be doing right now.
Yeah,
It was very spiritual. It was very like I said, man, it used to just wake me up in the middle of the night and just, you know, like I needed to be tending to this thing. I needed to be watering this thing, and I was so scared of it, but now it's like sometimes you just have to dive into the unknown because it's just meant to be.
I I mean this honestly, man. I can relate a lot to what you're saying there because I'm kind of I had similar experience with relaunching this channel, renaming it as Fed Up.
Hmm.
Um, I'll just say gone through a difficult period. I
Sure,
took a
yeah.
hiatus away from music for about 3 years,
Hmm.
maybe a little bit longer than that. I thought it was somewhere around about there. And like I say, I used to do radio shows for hardcore, death metal, grindcore, basically all the extremes.
Sure,
With,
yeah.
funnily enough, a little bit of doom and stoner and sludge mixed in there as well, which
Yeah,
had
yeah.
people thinking, "Well, like that's your rest period. You can still have a night. I'll give you 15 minutes rest, go on," or whatever." And and I really missed talking with people such as yourselves about music and film, and I, it's something you can't put into words. It's like an innate kind of itch and feeling.
Hmm.
There's something bugging you, and as you said, it'll keep you awake at night, or you'll wake
Yeah.
up and it'll be on your mind, and you think, no, 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 I'm not ready yet. I'll put this off.
Hmm.
So, and I'm still kind of, it's a work in progress. Social media side is pretty lackluster at the moment, but I'm not complaining. That's because I'm just scheduling guests all the
Sure,
time,
yeah.
every
It's
day.
very
So
overwhelming.
yeah, so I've really had very little chance to do any social media stuff, to be honest. Um, but yeah, it kind of similar reasoning, I guess. I thought, well, I've got to do this. This is a passion I have. You know,
Hmm.
I love nerding like we are now, chatting about music and what goes behind it and everything.
Yeah, yeah.
And I love my extreme music. So yeah, I can relate there, and I think there's a good message in there for people as well, for those who hopefully hear music or watch this interview later. That if there's something they want to do and they feel that urge and they feel that feeling and it won't go away, then that's their instinct, their soul telling them this is what you've got to do. Go and do it. Give it a try. Oops, we've just lost Joey for a minute. I think I drowned him in my ver- verbal 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 vomitory there. I think he's coming back. So I'll just give a quick shout out for the band just whilst. Oh, there we are. I thought I was drowning you in my verbal tirade there.
Sorry, buddy. No, my phone just glitched. Sorry about
It's all
that.
right. It's okay.
I had like a call come through and I realized I wasn't on Do Not
It's all
Disturb.
right.
Sorry. You were
No,
saying.
you're all good. No, I was just saying, I think there was a good message in there for people, who listen to your music and watch back this interview. If they have that similar feeling, that similar experience, there's something they want to do, then just step outside that comfort zone and give it a try, folks. You never know. So,
Yeah.
quickly come into some of the other areas of interest with the band, which I've been behaving myself before I ask you about this. Man, when I was reading that, you've also been inspired by composers such as John Carpenter. I thought absolutely fantastic, legendary movies as well. And then the whole cosmic horror vibe too, man, which, you said is definitely your deal. So, what is it about cosmic horror that you find so appealing?
So the cosmic horror genre was something that I didn't really know too much about. Like I had seen like Event Horizon, and like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, it's like space and hell and it's brutal and you know, and I love that movie. I'm not trying to discount it at all, but there was just nothing really jumped out at me. And then I played Bloodborne.
Oh man, that game is so difficult but good.
Yeah, yeah. Can you see these lights on my face right now?
I can, yeah, but
Okay,
don't worry,
there's
it's all right.
okay. I'm at my job right now, just like in the break room, and like a bunch of cops just pulled up, and there's anyway, ignore that.
It's all right.
But anyway, um, but yeah, a friend of mine recommended me Bloodborne, and I don't even remember why. I mean, I for the longest time I was just like a Zelda nerd, and like
Yeah,
I liked a lot of RPGs and stuff, but like when a friend of mine recommended me Bloodborne, I I've never become so just like obsessed with like not I mean, have you ever played any of the Soulsborne games?
yeah, I've got Bloodborne, and it's
Okay.
funny you mention it because that game gets brought up a lot on shows. It seems to be a
Yeah.
big source of inspiration for a
Yeah.
lot of people, and I've talked about this scene, and other people have mentioned it on the show. Is it when you first, when you first enter the city right at the start, and you see those like really tall dudes with like the cleavers in their
Oh
hand, but
yeah.
that journey into that city, the walkway in the Damascus, man, that is so creepy and
Yeah.
atmospheric, and you get there and you're like, man, it's almost like this is what the whole game is. I mean, the classics, the Resident Evil games,
Yeah.
people were creeped out by them.
Yeah.
Man, it's
Yeah,
so grimy.
and I love all those games too. Like, I
Yeah,
mean, I love the Resident Evil franchise,
yeah,
the
same.
Silent Hill stuff. Like, I love all the lore behind all those. But there was something about Bloodborne where like it didn't spoon feed you anything.
Yeah,
Everything is so there's so much deep lore to it and so much incredible um just these wild, wild stories, and like the whole story is like a puzzle you got to put together on your own, and
yeah,
um, the first playthrough doesn't really make sense, and you get to the end of
yeah,
it, and you're like, "That's it?
yeah, yeah,
What?" And then you think about it for a second, and you're just like, "Oh
yeah,
boy!" Like,
yeah,
but yeah, I got into Bloodborne, and then it was just like that's all I wanted to think about was just this I there's a part in Bloodborne where there's a guy talking about like lining your brain with eyes and
yes, yeah,
just being able to see all parts of your mind, and I took that and like I like adopted that into my own
yeah,
like existence, and I was just like, yeah, that's what I want to
yeah,
do. Like I want to be able to feel more and just apply that to all the positive things in my life, and and then you factor in the it's fun to be scared, and it's fun to be
yeah,
kind of overwhelmed with fear every now and then,
yeah.
and yeah, that was, I mean, this is really embarrassing to admit, but like I hadn't seen like Halloween until after I had played Bloodborne. I got into like soundtracks and movie scores, and John Carpenter is like
Phenomenal, isn't he?
like I can't even. I'll sit here and gush about that stuff forever, but like it's just so incredible, and the instruments that were used and stuff, and then Bloodborne. I saw the movie The Witch right around the same time, and the way that the score for that movie was made like is just horrifying. Like it's so tense and it's so manic and nerve wracking, and the way that the music was like written to the scenes, you know what I mean? Like the guy was like watching the movie and writing the music at
Yeah,
the same time. And then I was super into The Last of Us, and
yeah,
Gustavo Santiola, like the way that he was taking these unique instruments, and like he was playing like it was like a banjo, but it was like tuned like a drop tuned guitar, and just these crazy noises that he was making with like PVC pipe and these makeshift, stuff like that. And yeah, I got super into stuff like that. And then yeah, to go back to the cosmic horror though, like learning that Bloodborne was like, it's they, they'd call it Lovecraftian. I was like, well,
Yeah,
what is that? H.P. Lovecraft. Okay, I've heard of that guy, but like I've
yeah,
also heard of Edgar Allan Poe, and I've heard
yeah,
of fucking whoever else that I never paid attention to.
yeah,
And I was like, okay, so I read the Call of Cthulhu, and it was just
yeah,
like, this is this is true terror.
yeah. It is.
Like,
It's nuts, isn't it? Yeah,
yeah. And then I started, you kind of think about like, okay, why is this scary? Why is
yeah,
this unknown thing? Why is this,
yeah,
there's that whole thing in Bloodborne, the frenzy meter, where like
yeah,
this thing, you can't comprehend it, and it's killing you because
yeah,
your brain can't process what's happening.
yeah,
And so I think back to like when I was a kid, like what is it that happened when I was a kid, or what did I see that like is the root of what causes me fear now, and it was a really fun journey to like explore fear,
yeah.
and to like think back to being a kid, um and yeah, and cosmic horror was just really like, it's so otherworldly, it's so big and vast, and it could come from anywhere, you know.
That's what's exciting about it as well and appealing, because cosmic horror at the moment, lots of death metal bands are taking inspiration from
Oh
there
yeah.
and of doing cosmic horror themed albums, some slam bands in particular. And I think because it's got that mystery, unseen element to it, it's not the kind of religious terror, I guess, the good versus evil that we're used to. This is something from space, even in other realms, that mystery to it,
Right.
completely terrifying and perfect for sci-fi nerds,
Yeah, yeah,
all around
exactly.
nerds. We lap it up. And you mentioned The Witch. That was very interesting because I had a thrash band on Sunday from Arizona called Never Reborn, and one of the guys mentioned the Witch, and he asked, "Have you seen it yet?" I said, "No, it's another one that's on my watch list. I've heard nothing but good things." But he was saying, "Oh, that movie doesn't hold back on anything. It
Yeah,
really does put the horror out there." And
yeah,
the story on it, from what I know and from what he was telling me as well, I thought, man, that's so interesting. And that, I guess, it's not like it really does put the horror there. It's not like a Halloween comedy or something, The Witch, someone cosplay and running around with Harry Potter for the night or something.
right, 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 yeah.
So yeah, that's one I've got to check out. I also I mentioned this on the last show. I need to see the new horror movie called Thanksgiving, where it's literally
Oh
some
yeah.
dude apparently dressed up as a pilgrim going nuts. It's
Right.
already been greenlit for a sequel. So
Yeah,
that's a problem, man. It's just you don't have enough time. The watch list just keeps getting bigger
for
and
sure.
bigger and
And
bigger.
it's the same way with me too.
Yeah,
Like, I mean, for so long, like the only horror that I was really into was like, I was super into like ghost stories. Like one of my favorite movies is The Others with Nicole Kidman. You ever seen that one? I love that movie, but it's a creepy ghost story. It's a big haunted house. There's something about it that's very like contained, like it's but and what I love about The Witch is that, kind of what I was talking about with like Devil All the Time, like it feels very human. Like they did a really good job of humanizing these characters, and then when the events of the movie start happening, you feel like you almost feel like it's happening to you. It's
oh
yeah. I mean, the two movies that I feel like everybody and their brother references nowadays when it comes to like modern horror
yeah,
is The Witch and
yeah,
Hereditary.
yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah,
those two, and I mean they're like rightfully so. Like I mean
yeah,
I think they're modern
yeah,
masterpieces. But yeah, I think there's a ton of movies that those movies inspired that are also,
yeah,
excuse me, that are also really, really, really incredible.
yeah.
Yeah, a lot of good cosmic horror stuff. Have you did you watch that movie The Endless?
I didn't know. Again, I've heard about it.
Yeah,
It's on my to-watch list, but
that
not yet.
one's yeah, that one I would really recommend that one. And then have you seen Annihilation?
Yes, I have
Yeah,
seen
yeah.
that one. Yeah.
Annihilation's great. That's kind of like to me that is that's I don't I might get a lot of shit for this, but like I think Annihilation is for a lot of people what like Event Horizon was when it came out. Like it's just a very like it's a great introduction to the genre.
Yeah, it's one of those. It's got quite a thinking element to it as
Yeah,
well.
exactly. Yeah. I mean, and not to say that those two movies are like the only thing they have in common is that they fall under the cosmic horror genre, but
Yeah,
like I mean, there's only a couple parts of Annihilation that even like make it a horror movie,
yeah,
whereas like Event Horizon is like one of the scariest fucking movies I've ever seen. But like
yeah. What?
um yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, it's all right. No, no, go on. It's okay.
I was gonna recommend you one more that I just watched that is also a very popular movie that I am now blanking on the name of.
I'm contagious, man.
Yeah, no, it's okay. It has Amy Adams in it. Uh, like 12 different alien ships come to Earth and they like go up inside them.
Oh,
Arrival?
Arrival.
Arrival.
Yeah, was that the one where has that got Jeremy Renner in it as well, if I remembered correctly? Is that the one I'm
Maybe
thinking of?
I'm terrible
I
with like
think
actors and actresses names.
I think I've seen it. I think I have, and if it's the one I'm thinking of where Jeremy Renner was in it, we actually did a very good performance. Yeah, I think I've seen it,
Yeah.
not for a while. But yeah, it wasn't bad actually.
I loved
Um,
it.
yeah, you've got me trying to think of one now. I did have another question related to the band as well, which
Oh.
I'll get to. Don't worry, I'll get to it. No.
I had a feeling it was going to be a slippery slope once we started talking about
Oh, dude,
movies.
don't worry. It happens all the time. I don't think there's
Yeah.
been any guest on where we haven't gone on a nerdathon either about horror, fantasy, sci-fi,
Yeah,
some
yeah.
kind of movies. I think it just goes with metal and punk as well, and
Of course, yeah, yeah.
popular culture. There was another. There was a guy on from, I think it was a band called Law 13, and we were talking about Godzilla, and he was on his way to
Oh,
see
dude.
Godzilla Minus One, and he emailed me and he said, "Guys, you've got to go and see this." He said it's
Yeah.
really, really good. So that's
I'm
on my
so
list
bummed.
too.
I'm so
Yeah,
bummed that I'm not. I probably we leave for a little run this weekend,
yeah,
and I'm gonna try and talk the guys into like we have a little bit of time for like a matinee movie or
yeah,
something. Like I'm gonna try and drag them to go see that because
yeah.
like Godzilla was really like when I was was that 98 or 99
Oh, there's quite
when
a lot of them, and there's all the animated ones as well, isn't there, in the
yeah, yeah.
series?
But
Yeah,
there's the one with Matthew Broderick was like 98 or 99. I can't
yeah. I
remember
think
what
that's
year.
the first of those ones. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it's I
Yeah,
mean it's arguably like one of the shittiest Godzilla movies. But like
yeah,
when I was 5, that movie came out and it was like my
yeah,
whole personality. All I
yeah,
cared about was like skateboards and Godzilla. Like
yeah.
so yeah, I love Godzilla too. All the kaiju stuff is
Yeah,
incredible.
yeah, and some of those animated series on Netflix, the Godzilla
Yeah.
are really worth checking out as well. But
So
yeah,
sick, yeah.
I don't, dude, it's happened on every show so much. I'm saying this on every single episode, and believe it or not, a lot of guests have asked me either during a show or when we've got done our fair. They've said, "Guys, you've got to get like a round robin show set up where you've got people on from different bands and we pick a movie and we all, nerd about it, share our
Yeah.
thoughts." And I'm
Yo,
like,
I would love
oh,
to jump on with
yeah,
that.
this list is getting bigger. It's going to end up being like a festival where there'll be that many. And like I said to them all, it's absolutely awesome. But you see, it's connecting with the East Coast is fine because it's such a minimal time gap. I
Yeah,
said, but
yeah.
then when we add the West Coast into it, and if there's any cats from Hawaii, then Australia,
Right, right,
etc.,
right.
I'm like,
What time is it where you are right now?
it's just gone 15 after 11, so I'm 5 hours ahead of you of the
Oh,
East.
it's getting late over there.
No, it's pretty early, man.
Okay.
I go to like 8 Eastern and I'm a night owl as well.
Gotcha.
So yeah, I always open up the show to 8 Eastern. But yeah, the idea I was saying with I think one of the recent guests is if I maybe aim for like a weekend, maybe that's like accommodating for everyone and pick a
Mm,
time, but that's going to be such a headache to organize.
yeah,
But I keep getting asked about it, man. I'm like, that's something I'm maybe going to have to do in 2024. I
yeah.
know once a month, there'd be a challenge within itself.
Right, right. It's also like, I mean, with podcasting and stuff like that, like it's kind of a saturated thing where
Yeah,
like as much as I would love to do it, I mean, really what I want to do is I just want to come over and hang out with you and talk about this stuff. We don't even have to film it, you know what I mean?
yeah.
But I mean, like, does the world really need like 4 or 5 dudes just like sitting around talking about movies?
The thing is,
Like,
yeah, the thing is, it kind of happens as part of the shows anyway. I'm
right,
like,
exactly,
look,
yeah.
it comes up in natural conversation. We go into different areas. I'm kind of an anathema because there'll be people thinking, right, God, this guy's a nerd, and then I can have someone on from another band, and we do a sportsathon, and I'm like, oh, you're into big sports as well, and I was like, yeah, man. Um, but yeah, I think the way it's going now is fine. It's an awesome idea, but I think in reality, just trying to organize that on top of what I'm already doing is going to be too
Hmm.
much because I'm planning to bring other content to the channel as well outside of the interviews, and I'm thinking realistically, man, no way.
Yeah,
So one last question before I wrap it up.
sure.
Um, so with the next EP, Volume 2, I just wondered, are you? I'm gonna try and behave and not give too many spoilers away here, but
Mm.
are you going to play music in the same vein, or could it go more on the fuzz side? It depends just what naturally happens.
So I will say this. I think that there's been a lot of really awesome feedback about every song on the EP on
Mm.
Volume 1. Um, and it's been kind of confusing because, like, we don't. I, this sounds. I don't mean for this to sound shitty, but, like, we don't
So,
really care what people think about it
I know what you
as
mean.
far as, like we wrote these songs for us. You know, I
Yeah,
mean that was a huge reason why we started the band
yeah,
was because it was like we're not hearing anybody in the area like on like a smaller band level like doing stuff like this. Like there's a lot of bands that crop up because of what's cool. I mean, there's a new death metal band starting. I'm sure in the time we've had this conversation, there's 10 of them here in
oh,
town
more
that
than
just
likely.
started.
Yeah,
And that's awesome. Like I want, yeah, start bands, start bands. Like DIY is so sick. Start
yeah,
bands, play shows, throw shows. I love that. I will never be upset about people starting bands, but like we just want like and this is such a stupid cliche, but like we just kind of wanted to do something a little different than what was going on in our city. And then so for volume 2, there is a little bit of that like okay, well like people are telling us that they like us and like the streaming numbers are coming in like we kind of just throw all that out the window though. Like it's really we're just going to keep doing what we want to do, and if we want to write a grungy song, we're going to write a grungy song. If
yeah,
you know the goal right now that we have set for ourselves is that we have about 15 songs that are 60% of the way done. Some of them are 85% of the way done. But it's just like we're going to write a bunch of songs that we all really believe in, and then we're going to whittle it down to 5 of them that we feel belong together. Um, I think that, looking back on volume 1, you know, over the course of a year, we wrote these songs, and I think that you can really hear the band figuring itself out.
yeah,
That's what I love about it.
yeah,
Bathe Me doesn't sound like Bliss Trench. Bliss Trench doesn't sound like Unending Death. So on and so on. What I want to do on Volume 2 is we've sort of figured out what we wanted to do. Now, how do we sharpen that blade? you know, and that's my goal for EP2 is just to make it a more less of like five, six songs and more of like one solid piece of like art,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know. So that's my goal for volume two. As far as what those songs will sound like, I'm gonna like them.
Yeah.
You know
Well,
what
it
I
has to
mean?
be for you. It has to be for you guys
Yeah,
first,
for
beyond anyone
sure.
else. Because if you guys don't like what you're playing, it's like what we were saying earlier. Then that's not going to be honest and authentic for anyone else. If you don't
Yeah.
feel it, nobody else is.
Well, and then at that point, how am I any different than the fucking snake oil salesman that we wrote about?
Exactly. Exactly.
Like I'm gonna like put out a second EP and try to sell you some bullshit. Like
Yeah.
nah, I'll just stay home.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
No, that's right. That's right.
yeah.
Exactly. Keeping that soul within the music. I've remembered the just before we wrap up. I've remembered the Nicolas Cage movie. It
Oh, okay.
was Willy's Wonderland. Um, check that out, man. It
Okay.
is
Yeah.
hilarious. It is
I
like one
will.
of those theme parks where the put it on for kids and
Sure.
families, but this is like a psychotic version, I guess. But Nicolas Cage, I'll just say, gets trapped in with them, and well, it's Nicolas Cage, and Nick Cage does what Nick Cage does
Right.
best. That's all I need to
Right.
say.
That's
But
awesome. Yeah.
it's just
Austin, our
cool.
drummer, he's super into all the like. I mean, Nick Cage, like you said earlier, that guy is
Yeah,
like really having like a total resurgence with his acting career, and
yeah,
like some of those movies from the 90s and 2000s are so bad, but
mm,
everything that he's come out with in the last 7 or 8 years has
yeah.
just been insane.
Yeah, he's a quality actor for sure, and an
Yeah,
underrated
yeah,
one for
for
me.
sure.
And I think because I feel at times he's had like the default setting of just saying yes to absolutely everything and anything,
Yeah, yeah,
and that always hasn't done him any favors. So I do want to thank you for joining me, man. We've
yeah,
had a really good, deep conversation. It's been
for
really
sure.
interesting, man. Um, I know you shouted out some stuff at the beginning, but I'm still going to give you the opportunity to shout things out again now. So definitely plug the EP and the band. And is there anybody else or anything you would like to give a shout as well?
For sure.
Mm.
Yeah, volume one is out now. I'm like I said, I'm really proud of this EP. It's been a really cool like
Mm.
uh yeah, it's just it's I think it's been really good for all of us. But yeah, there's a ton of dope bands in Fort Wayne right now. Feet Aside, they're it's funny because they're like a brutal death metal band, but their singer Tristan is like he cares so much about music, you know, and he really puts on for people. Just a great dude all around. There's a band here in town called Necro Moon that they're kind of dreamy, shoegazy stuff that I think is definitely worth checking out. Um, yeah, man, I now I'm kind of drawing a blank. There's so much good stuff that I I don't know. Come to a show.
Well,
Just
yeah,
come to a show. If you're in the area,
yeah.
come check out shows. Yeah, now I'm drawing a blank, but
Do you have any live shows coming up yourself for?
Yeah, yeah. So Thursday, here in Fort Wayne, we're playing. Tristan from Feet Aside booked us with a band called Apostle of Solitude.
Yeah,
They're kind of a doom.
Doom Band. I know them. Yeah,
Yeah. Oh, sick. Okay, cool. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Not personally, but the music. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mm.
That's awesome.
Mm.
We're playing with them in a pizza shop. Was
Whoa.
Yeah, which is I hope is going to be as ridiculous as it sounds. So that's gonna be sick. And then Friday, we play Louisville, Kentucky, at a place called Planet of the Tapes,
All right.
which is a fun little play on words. There's 3 or 4 bands on that bill. I'm sorry, I can't remember who
It's
they
all
are,
right.
but and then Saturday we are in Muncie, Indiana at Be Here Now, which is a kind of a dive bar over there on the Ball State campus. And then Sunday, we're playing in Indianapolis at Black Circle Brewery for their metal matinee show. So that'll be cool. Come get some
Nice.
brunch,
Yeah.
uh, eat brunch with me, and then we'll play a little rock and roll show.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then there's a bunch of shows after that. I just can't remember when.
It's all right. Yeah. A bit like some of my questions as I'm asking them and thoughts where things just tend to evaporate sometimes. But yeah, busy week ahead though. I'm definitely going to check out Fetus Eye. I think I'll love them.
It's
Sound like my
so
jam
good,
this
dude.
year.
It's such good stuff. And they're like the best dudes ever too,
Yeah.
you know, like they care about the area, they care about the scene, and
Yeah.
they're all young pups that are out there doing the damn thing. So
Yeah. Yeah. I'll look them up and yeah, and maybe reach out to them. Sounds dope,
yeah,
man.
for sure.
Yeah, thanks for joining me, man, especially from work as well. It's greatly
Yeah, yeah.
appreciated. So everybody definitely go check out The Holy Nothing. If you're a fan of, stoner, desert, grunge, doom, sludge, hardcore, it's all in there. Definitely check it out. I shall see you all in the next episode of Fed Up, which is Thursday with Blood Red Throne, and then there's a doom band later on the night called Troll Teeth. So yeah, I shall see you on there. Don't forget to support, subscribe, and follow the channel. Stay up on everything that's going on. Usually on here every day. Thanks again for Joy for putting up with all my verbal tirades today and nerding with me. Always good to do that. So it's uncomfortable pause moments where I hit end stream and there's that delay and I have to sit here looking uncomfortable thinking, has it stopped yet? Has it stopped? So let's do this. Take care, everyone.